Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel. And it is, of course, Saturday, which means that it is time for the Star Trek stream. And I am, of course, joined by my good friends, the One Ton Hammer
Hello.
and Dr. Functional.
Hey.
And Skep Talk should be along shortly. And today we've got a double episode review show for you. We've got the finale of Piccard season 2 and the premiere of Strange New Worlds. And oh my god. Oh my god, I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed is an understatement. Before we delve into everything, is anyone else as disappointed as I am?
I was kind of prepared already. I mean, without getting too much into the episode, I
Yeah,
was kind of already I already told you guys I'm done with Picard.
yeah.
I just can't watch it anymore. I'll finish out the season for the sake of the discussion, but other than that, giving Strange New Worlds a try, but oh god, there's so much criticism. I like how it's not the first reaction I had with STD or Picard.
Yeah.
It might still have some promise, but I'm
Yeah.
stretching.
It's maybe got something, but I don't know. Um Hammer, what did before we tear the episodes apart, overall impressions, how did you feel about the finale of Picard and the series premiere of
I don't think it was the strongest season finale I've ever seen from a Star Trek movie or television show.
Yeah.
As far as Strange New Worlds, I've made this point so many times. It's you can't see the first episode of a TV show and base everything on it.
No.
And if you look at some of the real jewels of other shows, I don't think they did too bad of a job first go out of it.
Yeah, it had some promising aspects, but it also had some things where I was like, "Oh no." I don't like the path that I'm being I don't like the beginning of the path. Maybe the path will get better. But I don't like the trailhead, shall we say. But let's start with Picard. This season, for a season finale, it was very lackluster. It was definitely I keep saying that I feel like this has been written by two different teams of writers. It really felt like it was written by the team of writers who have been told about Star Trek but not actually watched it. Because I really felt like I was getting those, hey, remember that time when moments instead of the cleverly woven in moments that we mentioned in other episodes. Like the most ham-fisted one I can think of is after Talon. So well let's quickly summarize before we do this. Quickly to summarize, we have Talon and Piccard getting to the Europa launch. Piccard wasn't supposed to go, but he what was it in the voyage home? It was very reminiscent of the voyage home where the chick jumps on Kirk. Surprise! Except for this, he doesn't say surprise, but it was very much reminded me of that. scene. And Adam Sung is at the launch, and Seven, Rafi, and Rios have been dispatched to his mansion. Like they've kind of split up to tackle two things at once. Adam, I guess, foresees this and has set up like a audio decoy to make them think he's there. But he's got these drones that are supposed to be programmed to go take out the rocket. Skep says he's having tech troubles, but he will be there in a minute. Did they put a bullet in the back of Piccard's head? Please say yes. No, it's worse.
They just won't let him die.
So we get to the launch. We have Talon basically becoming, like, disguising herself as part of the astronaut crew. Adam Sung getting to Renee Piccard's quarantine room just after Talon does. Talon gets to say, "Hi, I've been watching and protecting you your whole life." And then we get like a switcheroo that was super obvious. Like super obvious. Like the audio description was written so that they were trying to get you to think it was Renee up until she runs into Piccard. I knew it wasn't Renee. Like I could tell by her voice.
For your future to be brought back.
Yeah.
One must die. One must live.
Yeah. So it was very obvious switcheroo. Adam Sung neurotoxins Talon, but he thinks it's Renee. And as if it wasn't obvious that it wasn't Renee from her speaking voice, when she goes, "Dr. Sung, there's a crazy woman, blah, blah, blah." Like, it sounds exactly like Talon. You know what I mean? And then she runs into Piccard, and she's going, Jean-Luc, Jean-Luc. And we know that Renee doesn't know Jean-Luc's name, right? So we know that it's Talon. Hello, Skep.
Hey, sorry, I'm like had
No
trouble
worries.
with the
No worries.
camera again.
But so we know that it's not Renee. We know it's Talon. And so Talon is dying, but she got to say hello to Renee, so she's fine with it. And the rocket successfully launches because Rafi and Rios somehow managed to... Rafi cuts the correct wire somehow, and Rios gets access to the drones, so he manages to use them to take out each other and self-destruct before the rockets launch. So Adam Sung is all very upset. It's very, very sad. And magically, Corey is... We see her with the VR headset, and she's deleting all the files from his server. And then, of course, we get the, hey, remember the con project? Remember the con project? Yeah, look, see, he's got that folder still. Remember that project? Like, that felt really ham-fisted.
Remember Khan? I remember Khan.
Yeah. Like, this is why I'm saying it felt like this episode was written by the team of writers whose friends watched Star Trek. And, like, these writers are like, oh, I remember my friend talking about this episode. You know what I mean? Like, so then, after that scene with the con thing getting smashed in our faces, We have Corey getting a message on her computer telling her to go to some park. And who does she meet at this park? But Wesley goddamn fucking Crusher! Because remember the Travelers? They were a thing. Let's tie them to the Watchers, of which Talon was a part.
Mm-hmm.
And because Talon is dead, we now have to have Wesley Crusher show up and remind us that the Travelers were a thing and that he became one. And he even, humbly mentions that the last time he wasn't careful, he put up his temperature growth in a species. And so he's very careful now. Very careful. And that recruitment speech to Corey. And Corey is now a traveler. Clone Girl is a traveler. Somehow. Because remember the Travelers? And
because they had this character and they had to have her in the show and they didn't know what to do with her, so to me that's just as bad, if not worse, than it was just a dream.
Yeah.
As far as writing faux pas go.
Yeah.
And just to interject real quick, do you remember a time when Star Trek was, and pardon the pun, more about manifesting your own personal destiny?
Yes.
And the destiny of those around you for the betterment of of everyone, not your destiny is constantly at the behest of superpowered alien species. It's driving me nuts. This the whole time. First we had Q, and it's like, okay, Q, yeah, well, whatever. And now we have back with the Travelers. It's just like, no, stop it. I want to take a newspaper and bop him on the nose and be like, no, bad boy.
Yeah.
Bad.
It's like that. It's like the scene when Peter, remember when Peter faked being on welfare and he was supposed to tell Lois about it, but he told her she was fat.
Yeah.
So Brian took the newspaper. No.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's so then we go back to the chateau and everyone is just assuming that they're just gonna have to stay there. And how does money work? Blah 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 blah. And we finally get told that Rafi and Seven are gonna be a thing.
Finally.
And then we get a scene between Piccard and Q. Which is at both, because they're both such good actors, really goddamn sad and really goddamn enraging. Because all of this for 30 years is because Q needs a buddy. That's it.
You needed a hug.
He needs a friend. That's it. For 30 goddamn years. This is all. He just needs a friend. He's lonely. And I was expecting that, like, because they fixed the timeline, that he wasn't gonna die. Like, he was either gonna be able to choose to be mortal and then die of old age eventually, or just something, right? But apparently sending them home is going to kill him. But before he sends them home, him and Piccard have a big hug. They just have a big hug. And like I said, because of how good they are, like the actors are, it was so fucking sad because they did a good job. But it was so enraging because it was like, really? All of this is because he needs a friend? That's the best reason you could come up with?
Yeah, not ensuring the balance and I can't find the word right now,
Thought about-
of the entire quadrant, which was their first meeting, making
Yeah.
sure that Piccard, the tip of the tip of the spear of the Federation to go out into the unknown, isn't going to disrupt the entire quadrant. But no, it's just because he needs a friend.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to yell. I'm trying not to swear. But good goddamn tap dancing baby Jesus, make it stop!
It was bad. It was really disappointing. Like, it was like I said last week, like the ideas that we were coming up with here were much better than what paid people produced. And
Because I honestly thought you were right when you said that you thought that Rios was going to be the one to bite the bullet, because he had no time, no place in the future, as he says, in the
I don't fit.
But he couldn't remain in the past. So what I thought was going to happen was I thought he was going to do what Piccard did and go with Talon to the thing and then like tackle Soong or something and get hit by the neurotox. Like that would have made sense.
Yeah.
What does New Talon have to do with anything? There's no investment in that character.
No.
None whatsoever. And as much as I don't care about 7 of 9, one of my, before all this, and still is in previous iterations, one of my favorite Star Trek characters of all time, X-Borg, blows my mind, is, hit my mic there, sorry, is really cool character. I love the relearning how to be human aspect that you see time and again, from like Data to 7 to even other races, what it means to be quote unquote human, and I couldn't care. But at least that would have made me feel a little bit of something.
Yeah. But instead, Rios is like, no, I want to stay behind in the 21st century.
And everybody's just like, yeah, cool.
Everyone's like, okay. It's totally fine that somebody from...
I tapped that too.
Like, even though you're from 300 years in the future, it's totally fine that you stay here. And so because he stays, he was able to make Elnor exist again. Yay!
What's this? BP, you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm wrapping it up in a nice little bow.
Yeah, it's a nice little package.
Because I know he was a fan favorite and all that.
I liked Elnor, but I really wish that, like, there could have been other ways to bring him back.
Like what would have been so hard if Q just says, "Okay, I'm putting everything back to the way it was."
Yeah. And
too bad, so sad. Can't stop me. I'm Q.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go Scap. You
please do.
I was just going to offer that you guys are pointing out a lot of stuff, and I agree with practically all of it, that the individual things in the episode that were wrong with it. But if you look at the whole episode, I think the biggest problem, they didn't have enough material for an hour-long episode.
No.
They had 20 minutes of plot tops.
Yeah.
And they needed more interesting stuff. And the other thing was, since they were trying to hit every dangling plot point, from the season, they're trying to, okay, well, all right, let's take care of this. All right, let's get it. It had the feeling of somebody going out shopping. That was not entertaining to me.
Chocolate.
And when Wesley Crusher showed up, I almost stopped watching.
Same.
I literally started screaming. I was like, no, fuck you, no, fuck off. Like,
Yeah,
I
Elwyn gave up on watching the rest of this. She
Really
just
not.
listens to the recaps and she knows how awful it is. But she'll be sitting there behind me or something while I'm watching it, and she looks over. She goes, "Wesley Crusher," and I look at her, and we both look at each other, just kind of shake our heads and roll our eyes. And I just powered right through it. Like,
Yeah.
you kind of had to.
but I was really mad.
But Skep, to your point, like and to BP's earlier point of the writers, like that seems to be the common theme throughout this entire season, is that there is no coherent flowing plot. There's a beginning, there's a whole bunch of stuff in the middle that was written by different people, but the writers in the beginning and the end, they had something almost
It's like
resembling
a grocery list.
Yeah.
It's like a
We gotta
grocery
pick one of these. I need flour,
Gotta get
eggs.
to the lesbian kiss. Let's get that on. How long we have for the lesbian kiss? Oh, you got 15 seconds. Can we got that in on 12?
I've been
Sure.
waiting 20 goddamn years for that kiss.
Yeah.
No, okay. Some people might look at that and be like, "Oh, they're throwing the lesbian stuff in her." Well, no, because technically, if we look back at her appearances in Voyager, she was more what you would consider, like bisexual, classically. Didn't really have a preference. It was
I would
more
say
of the
so.
character of the person,
Yeah.
regardless of their giggly bits, because she can't bear children.
Yeah,
So
but
for her
I don't even care about that.
no, not anymore. No.
What I hate was this thing got its 12 seconds and then it was off to the races again. There was no smooth transition out of that into something else. This thing was disjointed. It was like a bunch of little miniature skits that high school students put on. I was completely disappointed by this.
Yeah, they bought the ingredients, they went through shopping, but they didn't bake anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we get whisked back to the Stargazer. And there's Girardi.
It was a good part.
Oh God. Oh Jesus. Now you get into a really shit part of this.
And Piccard cancels auto destruct, and everybody, we go through our, oh wait, what happened? Oh, we're here again. Oh, good moments.
And then we get the
happen with
smug
time
karate
travel
thing.
episodes that have to be shoehorned in.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have
Ugh.
dialogue between Piccard and Girardi, you needed somebody you could trust. You needed a friend, blah, 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 blah. Same thing with Q, right?
And the Borg has become smug somehow.
Yeah.
Because Borgs do that. So now we have smug Borg.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Nice smug Borg.
Nice.
Yeah, nice smug Borg.
That sounds like a Swedish dish.
It does.
Nice smug Borg.
And then so we have this random spatial anomaly that even the Borg don't know who or where it comes from, but it's emitting a lot of really bad juju energy. And the reason that the Borg called for Piccard in the first place was that it needed the fleet's shield harmonics to help supplement their own to keep the bad juju energy from killing everybody, I guess.
Yeah.
So after they do this,
Yeah.
they then request provisional membership in the Federation because, let's change the nature of one of the biggest, baddest villains in Star Trek.
The only pure evil left, really.
Yeah.
Aside from the oily creature.
Yeah. But and my mom,
And Wesley
I was
Crusher.
talking to my mom about it.
Wesley Crusher, yeah.
She goes, well, the villain has to be defeatable. And I'm like, okay, there's a difference between having a defeatable villain and changing its nature to suit your plot. There's a big fucking difference.
Like, look at some of the other superpowers and what has happened over the years.
Yeah.
The Klingons become less warlike and still driven by honor, but less warlike through lessons that they learn from,
But they
not
still have that.
Romulus gets destroyed, so Romulan power kind of subsides, and they're busy trying to pick up the pieces.
Rebuilt, yeah.
The Dominion was defeated, so they're running back to the Delta Gamma Quadrant.
Yeah.
Tuck tail between their legs. They're going to sit in their own thing, and they're not going to attack each other anymore. Okay, you had the Borg, who was just and as far as MacGuffins can go, it was a really good plot device to just be like, oh, we need a big bad enemy that the guy can, level up that episode. Let's throw in the Borg. They did it with Janeway countless times, even though sometimes it was better than others. It was still
like even
Scorpion meant so
world,
much.
They didn't change the nature of the Borg. They used Piccard's inside knowledge.
Yeah.
And sleep data. Sleep. Put them to sleep. Like, that's all they did with that one ship. Like, they didn't they didn't have a fucking negotiation. Right? Like, so now the Borg is a member of the Federation.
And I'm confused too, because is it just the single ship of Gerati Borg? Or like, are we talking that this is just the face of what we're supposed to
They'll
accept
do whatever.
as...
They'll do whatever is convenient.
Of the new Borg.
Yeah, she is the new Borg.
Because she says
no. But I mean, if we look at what the Borg was, they were massive. They took up most of the Delta Quadrant. Yeah. Does she have? Are those the same resources that they have? Because if so, why the frick does she need anything from the Federation? A fleet of Borg ships could have just turned up and been like, "Mind your business, puny humans. We're here to save the galaxy." Boom, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. There's an entire episode.
Yeah.
But no, we have to get it stretched out in 10 episodes of whatever the bleep. And it's so infuriating to further... You're right, it's not even neutering them at this point. It's just changing the fundamental nature of the Borg. And it just...
And now there's a new, bigger, badder threat than the Borg that can generate spatial anomalies at the center of the fucking galaxy.
New Ultra Borg, new and improved.
And the Borg requested membership in the Federation so they can be the Guardians.
Bet you anything, it's species 8472.
Yep. That's what Mom and I thought.
This is like Russia requesting, to get into NATO, and China is the actual species behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are parallels.
And then, of course, we have what all I can call it is our 1940s-esque radio show-esque wrap-up scene.
In 10 Forward.
In 10 Forward, where Guinan, gives us Rios and Teresa's life story because we care.
Guinan in the Hut.
Apparently.
I thought it was Grimace, to be honest, but... Yeah, I mean, again, with the way that Rios ended, it was like, you've just now buried any chance I have of caring about anything anymore.
He died in a Moroccan bar over medical supplies.
Yeah, I just hated the end of that, where they just
and Ricardo fixed the Earth with an organism that Auntie Renee brought back from Europa. Like, oh,
and that was the worst Guinan too. At the end, that was smug Guinan telling everybody how they all died. That's great.
Well, that's because she's been on The View for 10 years.
Yeah, no kidding.
Look, if they condense some of these plot points, like the Europa mission, into a single episode, it would have been interesting.
Yeah.
The microbe on itself, the new discovery, that's part of Trek. But they didn't. It's not even a plot device. It's just throwaway dialogue. There's nothing to it. Watching this not only infuriates me, for it being so like bad, but it's like it's trying to piss on me and call it rain.
Yeah.
It's treating me like I'm a child, like I'm an idiot. Star Trek never did that. Even when I was a child watching TOS and TNG, it never treated me like I was dumb.
Yeah, it was bad. Like, I felt when I finished watching that episode.
You know, that's actually a really good point. I had to think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Functional
try
just
because-
made a really, really good point about that. This really patronized the shit out of the viewer. I didn't think about that. It really is. It doesn't give the viewer any credit. It's really off-putting.
That's why I think that we all like all of us being, really deep into Star Trek as we are, is why this show is so off-putting, because the overarching themes and how the show makes you feel viscerally,
Yeah.
just is it's not there.
It's just wrong. Yeah, you're right.
It's perverted. It's wrong. It's
No,
at some points
doesn't
not
feel
there.
right.
Like it just.
In chat, Nikki Cunningham says this whole season could have been one episode, albeit a two-parter.
You know,
To show you that.
not quite true, Nikki, but
I'd
hear
say
you.
maybe two-parters.
We hear you.
Or maybe like how DS9 did it a couple times, a two-parter and then an episode.
Yeah.
I like Nikki's comment. Star Trek used to show you, not tell you.
Yeah.
Exactly, Nikki. Yeah.
I felt, and after watching that episode, like I said, because of how good actors John Delancey and Patrick Stewart are, I was sad in that scene, but not because the writing was good. It was all on the actors, and I was more sad that they were killing off a character that shouldn't be killable. You know,
In fact, he's Q. It doesn't even have to be John Delancey.
Right, exactly. It should just be a representative of the Q.
Or even Q just looking differently.
Yeah.
Like in that first scene where we see him with the CGI de-aging, be like, you know what? I'm feeling a little different, Jean-Luc. And then he changes into, hey, look, we have a new actor who's really good, who's going to be playing Q. Nice and neat. No need to, I guess BP's got kids to deal with. Nice and neat. Doesn't have to be overly weird about it. Doesn't have to... We don't have that shopping list item of, oh, well, now we need to kill Q and get rid of this actor and get rid of this actor. They don't have to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, you actually can handle that pretty gracefully because of Q's nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And
I mean,
but it's like they avoided every possible good idea in this.
Yeah.
That's Akiva Goldsmith's MO there.
Yep. And speaking of Akiva Goldsmith,
Please.
let's move on to Strange New Worlds, shall we? Oh, good. Okay.
Can I just say, thank God the visuals are not JJ Trek, but they actually do feel like a modernized version of the TOS era.
Yeah.
I will give it that. It is beautiful. It's not jarring camera angles and jump cuts and lens flares. It's clean, it's bright, it's what you would have thought the original set would have looked like in the modern era.
It's funny you should say that, because the very first scene when you're walking in the hallway with the red lights and the girl turns to the right, if you watch that scene, lens flares.
Ah,
The first thing I noticed is like, oh no, that was a lens flare.
did it go away?
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's not like the entirety of the show, which is something very common found in the JJ movies. Like
Yes.
every other scene, there's lens flares and like half the screen is just blinding light breaking the shot. Like, but you are right. Yeah, there was a couple.
Now there are a few things like Hammer said before the show. This is a premiere episode of the first season of a Star Trek series. So it's always like all of the first season episode premieres are not stellar Trek. Like I'm sure we can all stipulate to that. But so I did try to keep a more open mind with Strange New Worlds than I had with Piccard, because Piccard's end of season 2. It should be a bit better. But Strange New Worlds, I did find it a bit so we have Pike. Pike is the captain, and so this is pre-Kirk. And
Pike and his harem of diverse ladies. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that was a little annoying.
Every bridge officer is a woman.
Wah, 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 wah.
Like, I mean, what was wrong with having, like, there were women on the bridge in all the other Treks, but like, why do we have to have all women?
Yeah, and they're all the super competent, but still in touch with their emotions women, and the only men on the bridge, Spock and Kirk, are both broken or alien individuals that are like hell. You start the entire episode started off with looking at Pike and seeing how disheveled and broken he is.
Again, because how did the frickin' pilot episode of TOS start out? Pike was all struggling with his problems from shit. What was the planet? Anyway, he was having issues with the mission to the planet pre the cage. And in the cage, he's all fucked up. He's doubting his command abilities. Right? So here we are in the first episode of Strange New Worlds. And again, Pike is all like, should I go? I can't command anymore. Blah, blah, blah. Again, not an original idea because they already did that. But this time, the reason that he feels like he can't command is because, and this is where I get annoyed, during a Discovery episode, he apparently, like, he was on the moon of Borith or whatever. And it's just, he apparently, there's ore that has like this temporal effect on people, and he saw his future, and he saw the accident on like the one that makes him a vegetable, basically. So we have Strange New Worlds now, like the Discovery series, I was always led to believe was pre-Kirk and slightly like not quite in the same universe.
No, it is.
Oh, it is in the same. Okay.
And Strange New Worlds is actually like a spin-off of STD.
Yeah, I can tell.
Because Anson Mount did play Pike in STD. And so did Rebecca Romaine play number one. But they also reference, remember, in the elevator, he asks Spock, "How's your sister?" They're referring to Michael Burnham.
My that was the first time I went, oh no.
Yeah.
Right, because I was hoping for
something new.
I was hoping it wasn't going to be a spin-off of Discovery. I I wanted something new. I wanted something that was Pike going out and exploring.
It's tough to strike that balance.
It
I
is.
mean, if you do something new, then hey, this is not Trek. This makes me feel a certain way, and it's not Trek. But if you
Yeah.
don't do something new, then it's hey, they didn't do anything new. We've seen this before. So
Yeah.
it's tough to play that balance.
That's true.
What is the secret of doing that right, Hammer?
Oh, if I knew, I'd be in charge of production at Paramount.
No, you
No.
wouldn't, because they don't
No,
hire
you-
competent people.
I was going to say that was
Well,
they,
I mean-
they hire people who knew what they were doing.
The actual story of the episode, I thought, was very reminiscent of TOS Trek, or classical, what we get when we want to watch a Star Trek show. It's the lead up, the character framing, the establishing world building that really just
Setting a believable or a context that doesn't that asks you to suspend disbelief, which we all do, which every
Sure.
person who watches this sort of thing does, but it's an acceptable transaction. That's sort of what I was trying to get in asking that question to Hammer.
Mhm.
Was how do you get to that acceptable level where you say, okay, reader or watcher, viewer, fan, I want you to suspend disbelief this much, and I've set the stuff up this way. If you can make these moves comfortably in your imagination and accept this, we can move ahead and have an interesting plot. There's a way that Star Trek has done that for years and years, and they've stopped doing it in a lot of cases. And this is an example of that, I think.
Simple answer, Skep. Back to basics.
Mm.
Yeah.
Good basics of story writing are being completely ignored here. You do not, especially in a show that's going to have an entire season, you do not ham-fist an entire person's backstory emotively in the first episode and have that repeated through 7 or 8 characters.
Yeah.
You spread it out. You allow us to grow with the character, not just be like, here's the character.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, we didn't know everything about Kirk in The Man Trap.
Mhm.
We didn't know everything about Bones in The Man Trap.
Jean-Luc was still kind of a mystery up until season 4.
I agree with you. And I think if you do that successfully, I think the audience will trust the writers more and more. And the writers can ask them for bigger and bigger suspensions of disbelief, because the fans, the viewers, get to where they trust the writing, that they're not going to be let down, that the payoff isn't going to be something as stupid as Will Wheaton appearing out of no fucking where. Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
I totally do. I mean, like, what is wrong with Pike for the first season? Just as an example, it doesn't have to be Pike, but just being the stoic captain, being the consummate professional, military or, enlisted man, commander. Like, it's okay to do that. You could maybe start the first season, show a little bit about what's going on with Spock.
Yeah.
Again, just hypothetically, it doesn't have to be these characters I'm talking about, but just, and slowly, little tidbits of this and that are thrown around, passing points of dialogue, so that when the show does have longevity and 3 seasons down the line, you're looking back and going, oh, I remember when O'Brien said that.
Right.
Now it makes sense, because they're being self-referential in a good way. And these, again, they're fundamentals of just good basic fundamentals of good story writing, good character writing. There's a reason why the tropes have been in our culture for thousands of years.
Here's an example of that functional. You remember in season 3 when they go to the Promelian battle cruiser and Piccard references the ship in the bottle, and O'Brien's the only one that goes, I built ships in bottles.
Yep.
And then in DS9, we see all of O'Brien's
Ships in bottles?
ships in bottle.
made me so happy. It's the littlest thing. But I look at the producers and the writers of that show and I give them mwah, chef's kiss. I'm like, that's brilliant self-referential. There's no, okay, well, this entire episode, O'Brien. And look, he's got chips in bottles. You know, that's not TNG's style. Never was.
And also, what really was weird to me is why are the Vulcans doing human sexual things all of a sudden when
Ratings.
before in other Trek there was clearly different
Bits.
mating actions than
I'll tell you, even in STD, they hammered home that point, BP, that it is very different. It is more like a professional relationship until it's time for Ponfar. Then you get busy.
yeah.
But
then
it's
we've got Spock, and I know Spock is half human, but I mean, like, come on. Like, him and T'Pring, like, making out? Like, no.
in a restaurant.
In a restaurant? And
Displays of emotion? Are you...
Public displays of emotion.
Yeah.
And such, what they would consider a dangerous emotion at that.
Yeah.
Actually,
These
you know
Vulcans.
what? This goes back to what you were just talking about, functional. This is the kind of thing that makes you not trust the writers. This is the kind of thing that puts you off, making out in a restaurant. Really? Vulcans think?
Yeah. Because Spock is the one who apologizes for that when the waiter poo-poos them. And because the waiter says, do that somewhere else. And T'Pring is the one who says that's a good idea. She's the full-blooded Vulcan.
Yeah,
You do that.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, play a little bit of devil's advocate here, because when I did see that, I felt the same way. But it could be building on something where T'Pring is not in full control of her emotions. She's not like acting fully Vulcan, and that's why she's so strongly attracted to Spock, is because she sees him, the half-breed, as somebody who might be able to let go. Because we've seen that kind of thing, most notably in Enterprise, where there are some kind of diversity, some kind of dissident kind of thought within Vulcan society. It's not mainstream. In fact, a lot of it isn't even talked about, but there might be some kind of like fetish. But it doesn't have a place in the opening episode, I don't think.
Yeah.
To come back to reality. Again, I gotta give it the benefit of the doubt. First episode, different writing team than the other two series, so we'll see.
Yeah.
It is uncomfortable because it doesn't make sense.
Eventually says Nikki, technically she just chooses a different mate in TOS. Yeah.
I like your Janeway quote.
Well, it's true because Harry technically dies, but he's still in the Timeless episode.
Yeah.
And he's like, how does this work? And he's like, just don't ask. Just don't ask. That's what
which kind of spits on the whole DS9 returning back to Trouble with Tribbles episode, which is like, don't ask. But now they have an entire temporal division.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they're asking questions.
Well, it's because of Janeway, isn't it? Like,
what's that?
Literally, isn't it because of Janeway that the temporal prime directive became a thing?
No, I think it was because of Kirk.
You think it was Kirk? I know it was because of Kirk that the prime directive became a thing.
Yeah, but for now it's General Order 1.
Yeah.
Which,
but it was known as General Order 1 in TOS too.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
It specifically said that in TOS.
Yeah.
Then I
As
don't
far as
understand
Prime
the
Directive.
build-up.
It's so
After-
important that this Prime Directive that it's Starfleet's General Order Number 1. It's almost word for word how it was said in the episode. I don't remember what episode it was, but that was what it said.
Yeah, but it's
I believe you. It just seems weird that they would just
but they
create a new
literally-
synonym calling it the
they
Prime Directive.
start
My
calling
confusion.
it the Prime Directive like close to the end of Kirk's career, probably because of Kirk.
Yeah, okay.
But no, I think because of Piccard and Janeway that the temporal Prime Directive became a thing.
Yeah. And Ben, oh, poor Ben. Poor Ben was just suckered into that.
Yep. But so with Strange New Worlds, part of it felt like they were trying too hard to make the original series and the Discovery series like line up
Interconnect. Yeah.
with this as a midpoint.
What's the option?
Oh, I know that they have to, but the way that they've done it just kind of feels a little bit it kind of just feels like slammed in there. There's no, like, I'm not sure how they would do it differently because I haven't seen, this is the first episode, right? So we have to kind of, like I said, I'm trying to keep more of an open mind because I really don't like Discovery, but I really don't want to not like this because of Discovery. You know what I mean?
I will give it, and I'd like to hear people's thoughts on this. Like stylistically, tonally, stylistically through the writing, the subject matter, the meat and potatoes of the episode is them going to a planet to avert them using a warp bomb. This more primitive alien species.
Yeah.
And to me, that felt more like what we've come to expect from Trek. But it was kind of dropped in that sort of STD tonal pile of stuff, and it just kind of plopped in the middle, and you were kind of just like, okay, now we're going to rush through this, make sure it was like an extended grocery list on its own, Skep.
Yes.
Where it's like, we just need to hit all these quick points
that.
so that we can get the member berries of,
That's
this is what something that Piccard, Riker or Kirk would have done, and blah, blah, blah. And here we go. And here's the moral message, and done.
Yeah, I felt
very much so.
I felt like it was rushed. Like you just said, it rushed.
That was my take too.
Well, because they had to have that beginning and the end of them with the new crew and the new stuff, and the end of the episode, they had to have that whole like 2 minutes dealing with Andrew Kirk?
Samuel Kirk.
Which cool, fine. We got to introduce him at some point. But like the stuff with the doctor, the stuff with the helmsman, the stuff with the who was security officer.
Yeah.
And and why does she have why does she have to have Khan Noonien Singh's name except with an L? Like,
that's
wow.
a fair question.
The dog just answered it. He just shook his head.
I agree. Your dog just had a great response there, Skep.
Yeah, just sitting there staring at me and then shakes the head.
Yeah.
I don't know, Dad.
I like when I
couldn't make any sense of it either.
Sing, I was like, really?
Yeah.
Is there something wrong with that?
But why does it feels like either because she even says her colony ship. So like is there a second ship of Noonien Sigs out there that we don't know about? Is this a coincidence?
I don't have a problem with that on its own. Again, it was just another bomb dropped in the series of bombs of this episode, where you could have just said, and Lieutenant Singh or something, and then later in a future episode have it discussed, like, yes, she is actually, and or that is her actual name, and then even later still have to deal with if there's that connection there, where I think BP's having the problem where she wants to know more already, where again we it's hard for all of us, but you have to keep your hand on the reins and realize
That's what I'm
episode
trying to do. I'm like, is there a connection? Are they doing this to throw us off? Is this a coincidence? If it's not a coincidence, how are they going to explain the time differential? Because they didn't discover the Khan until season 1 of TOS, so they shouldn't even know about Noonien Singh anything at this point. Like, that's why I'm like, is this a red herring? Is this...
I think we'll probably find out this season. I think it'll be one of those big arcs, because she's gotten enough screen time and a lot of acting moments with the two other big names being Spock
and
Kirk.
I do like her as an
She's going to get
actress.
flushed out. I don't buy her as a security officer. You know why I bought Tasha as a head of security? Because Tasha was a beast. Tasha was a consummate professional, no nonsense type of girl while she's on the clock.
And how long did it take to establish that? How many episodes of Star Trek before we got to that point?
I mean, I can buy... I don't know. I have less of a problem than you do functional with her as a security officer, especially after hearing her story of like having survived living on the Gorn planet.
But that's what I'm trying to say, BP, is like, that is the type of stuff you should be revealing later on. It could be this season, it could be future seasons, but like Hammer said, how long did we learn that Tasha came from that planet, and that, you know, there were rape gangs, and the life there was really
mention
garbage.
of rape gangs for like a second in episode 3.
Yeah.
But we then got more snippets dropped.
And she was built as a character before she had an emotional sort of flowering reveal.
Yeah.
Whereas Singh was just like, oh, well, here's my emotions on the table. And that is, again, why I have a problem with not necessarily just that most of the bridge officers are female, but that they're all seem to be this type of cookie cutter character.
Yeah.
And the big emotional reveals just aren't reveals. They're just like, here's everything on the table. It's lazy.
Too much
want more. I want it to be more. I'm still holding out hope, because for me, like I was saying to BP before the show, for me, Star Wars was almost a lost cause for the longest time.
Yeah.
Of recent memory, until The Mandalorian came out and really brought me back to the universe. And I'm still hoping that Strange New Worlds will bring us back to the essence of Trek, and bring us back to...
hold your breath.
I'm not holding my breath, Skep, but I still have to be objective and fair. I can't, you know, if I want to just be emotive and emotional about it, yeah, I think it sucks. I think it's terrible. I think it was a bad pilot. The end. But I mean, you know, there's a lot of technical good and technical bad that's been going on, that is just internally with my own objective self, is just kind of playing war with each other. And it kind of still does make me want to see more, like BP was alluding to, with wanting to know more about the Singh thing, about what's going to go happen with Pike and all this other stuff. I just hope it doesn't supersede the mission.
I did enjoy the little speech Pike did. Like, that felt like Trek.
Mm-hmm.
When he was like, hey, here's what our planet looks like now. Here's what our planet used to look like. Like, that felt very much like something Kirk would do.
Kirk or Piccard or Janeway or Benjamin or Archer. Yeah, definitely.
That felt very Trek-like.
Like I said, that whole scene of them with the aliens to me, kind of brought me back into the
Yeah.
table and go, you know what? If they do more of this, I can be on board.
Yeah. But then there were other parts where I was like, really?
Yeah. But tonally, I mean, especially to Skep and Hammer, because you guys are the big TOS fans here, and you grew up with that. Like, are you getting the same sense that I got
Very
as
much
someone
so.
who came after that? Like, that it did kind of feel more like that kind of era of Trek?
I think they're trying for that.
Okay.
Nikki
But
does
I'm
have
not
a
sure
good
they got
point.
there.
To go back to our comparison between Singh and Tasha, Nikki has a good point about how Tasha did have a very emotional. They did do a pretty emotional reveal of her, like her ability to like lose herself in her emotions and talk about her planet in Farpoint in the trial scene,
Yeah.
which is true.
Okay. Fair point. Yeah. Fair point.
That is a good point.
Guys, I've got a bit of a hard stop at 5, and it's 5.
Well, I think we've kind of beaten this.
Horse into the ground.
All I can say is I'm hoping that next episode of Strange New Worlds will be a bit better. And that we will learn some more things about the characters in a bit of a better, less checklisty way.
Yeah, please. That'd be fine.
But I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a good rest of your Saturday. I'd like to wish everybody in North America a happy Mother's Day because that's tomorrow. And I will be seeing everybody on Monday for the coffee stream. If you guys are around tonight, go check out Minions at 11:30. Also on Tuesdays at 11:30 and Wednesdays at 9. So
Yay.
That's us.
that is everything. And I
Come by and have a fillet with the minions.
Yes, I hope you guys have a great night, and thank
See
you
what I
all
did
for
there?
watching.
Thanks for having us.
Bye,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
Joel on
See ya.
through.